everyone. I'm James Milan. Welcome to this episode of Talk of the Town. And this one's a complicated one, technically, but also it's going to be a great one in terms of content. Our producer, member extraordinaire, Michael Armanius, is on a mission that we're all signed on to look at organizations in Arlington, give a close look to organizations in Arlington and in the area that provide not just the services that they are meant to do or designed to do or have a mission to do, but also go well beyond that to address their clients, the population's needs in a number of different ways. So today I am joined here in studio by Susan Dorson from Arlington EATS, and also remotely from Westboro by Kate Sanetra-Butler, who is going to be speaking about her organization, Dignity Matters. So first of all, to both of you, sorry for the lengthy introduction. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. So I'm going to start with you, Susan, and just ask you again, because we are Arlington-based here, we are going to make Arlington EATS kind of the centerpiece of this. But describe for people who might not know, although it's hard to imagine,
Right.
there are too many people in town who don't know, but describe what Arlington EATS does.
So Arlington EATS' mission is to engage our community in addressing the issues of food insecurity and hunger and trying to eliminate them. It's a big task, but we work on it every day with the help of members of our community. And you know, I guess what that really comes down to is providing access to food in a variety of different ways to make sure that people have dignified and easy access to the healthy things they can get to feed their families, to get through the day, to get through the week.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you mentioned dignified, and again I mentioned that Kate's organization is called Dignity Matters, and that seems to be a real hallmark of what both of you both organizations are doing. And I just would, before we turn to Kate, I just want to ask you to elaborate a little bit more on the idea of, or the specific ways, I guess, in which you take the folks who come to you or who, who connect with you around the around food insecurity or food needs. Mm-hmm. And what are the ways in which you guys are setting up a culture for how folks can feel in being clients of Arlington EATS?
Right. So we know that asking for help is always hard, no matter what the ask is, right? And we know that there's always that, I don't want to stand in line, I don't want people to know that I need help and that I can't actually provide for myself or my family. So we try to make it as easy as possible and dignified. So one of the main things is we don't have any lines. There's people can make appointments to come, and if they don't make an appointment, there's never going to be a line outside, so they can come in the door. Our guests also know that there's always enough food. They don't have to be there waiting and hoping that there's still going to be enough, even if they're the last family in the door. So we always make sure there's abundance of food. There are no lines. They can make appointments. There's no waiting. All the staff and volunteers wear name tags, so they know who we are and they can talk to us by name because we get their names when they walk in the door. So we need them to know that this is a two-way street, right? We try to make sure that we treat them with as much respect as possible. We have very few limits on the food, so they can really shop as if it's a small grocery store. So in every way possible, we try to make it a normal experience. It's like a small grocery store is what people say when they walk in. There's really a wonderful abundance and variety of things. And then, to this whole story is that we try to provide things that are a little bit beyond food, that are not part of our natural mission, but we know that, for instance, if they do have SNAP as an additional way to kind of support their households, SNAP doesn't cover things like period products or diapers. It only covers food products. So we try to make sure that we can help fill in those other voids, because for families who are food insecure, there are other issues usually at play as well, right? So we try to kind of see as many connections as we can make, and in as dignified a way as possible.
Thank you for your patience, Kate, through this first part of the conversation, and let's bring you in. Again, Dignity Matters is an organization based in Westboro, where you're coming from right now, but that is connected to Arlington EATS in a very particular way. Can you speak, first of all, just, again, in the same way as Susan just did, introduce us to Dignity Matters, to, how long you've been around, how you started, et cetera, and then speak to the connection that you have with Arlington EATS.
Sure. Hello. So, Dignity Matters is a nonprofit organization. Like you said, we've been around for 10 years. And what we do is we purchase and collect menstrual care as well as underwear and bras. And we distribute these items to our community partners, such as Arlington EATS. We work with other 501c3 nonprofits, a huge variety of them, food pantries, just like Arlington Eats, but also schools, domestic violence shelters, state colleges, and so on and so forth. So we work with community partners across the entire state. We cover 63% of communities at this point in Massachusetts. And we serve clients that obviously utilize services that our partners provide. So that way we can scale faster. Our community partners can rely on us because the products we donate are provided regularly. And also, our community partners know their clients the best. So we rely on them to distribute product to their clients, and we rely on them to tell us what is it that they need for their communities. And on our side, we secure the funding and the product and deliver it to our community partners. So that's the business model. And we've been working with Arlington Eats for a bit like maybe a year and a half now, since 2024. And just like with other community partners, we provide menstrual care for a certain number of women. That's regular every 2 months, so 6 times a year. In case of Arlington Eats, that's 200 women that we support every single month with their menstrual care, as well as bras. And people often ask us, why bras if you're a menstrual
Hmm.
menstrual care organization? And the way it started, I think it's kind of interesting. At the beginning, there was no realization that nobody else does that. When I started Dignity Matters, we were just providing menstrual care. But then by going mostly to homeless shelters, we understood that women have no underwear. And if you have no underwear, you can't use menstrual care.
Hmm.
So we extended very quickly in the first year to underwear, and with underwear, you have bras. And it's really about the dignity, going back to what you were talking about. It's the dignified piece, really providing the items that women need to feel dignified. In case of menstrual care, just like food, it's a necessity, and women need to have menstrual care to manage their periods with dignity. So that's where we come in.
Tell us how that happened, and what motivates you to do this kind of work. And yeah, we'll start with that.
Sure. So actually, my background is not in nonprofits. I came from a business background, and I came to United States 12 years ago, and I had two little ones, and I actually was on maternity leave, and I was stopped by a homeless woman in Boston on Copley Square, June 10 years ago. I'll always remember that because it really changed my life and the life of a lot of people around me. So when she asked me for a spare tampon, I remember being very surprised. I was just like, is that what people do in the United States? Never that happened to me before. And I didn't help her at the time. I couldn't help her. And to be honest, I forgot about that whole incident. But about a week later, I've heard an interview on NPR about a woman who was collecting menstrual care in Indiana. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Is that just kind of what happened to me? And as I've mentioned, I was on maternity leave. I had a bit of time, so it's just got me interested. Why would someone be asking me for menstrual care? And I randomly called shelters in Rhode Island and in Massachusetts, and I asked, "Is that something you collect?" And people were like, "Are you kidding?" It's the most needed item. We have a lot of clothes. We have a lot of toiletries. but nobody thinks, and nobody certainly goes and specifically purchases menstrual care to come to a homeless shelter and give it to us. And and unlike many other things, this is a need that we have every single month as women. So it's an ongoing kind of a difficult thing to tackle because you need it when you need it. It needs to be there. And it needs to be delivered every single month, unlike, let's say, winter coats. You give a one winter coat and someone can have it for the whole winter. So I discovered very quickly that this was a need that was hidden. And really even going beyond the whole fact that there is still some shame and some taboo around periods, simply around economics and logistics. Shelters, domestic violence centers, schools do not provide these items. They're not covered by food stamps as well. So women utilizing food pantries or even being at shelters, they have no way of accessing or buying menstrual care. So I thought that something needs to be done. And at the beginning, it was just a small project that started at my home, or I thought so. That was supposed to be a little hobby, but it grew really quickly. And with the support of community at that time around Wayland, because that's where the organization started, we grew really quickly. Within a year, we were supporting 1,000 women, 2,000, 3,000, and now we support 18,000 women every single month with all their menstrual care needs and underwear and bras. People are always very surprised that so many women need this product. And they're even more surprised when we tell them that our waiting list is huge. We probably could provide another 18,000 women with menstrual care because they don't have access to it. And the same with girls at schools. So it certainly proved to be more than a hobby. It became a mission. It became a movement. When I started Dignity Matters, there was only one other organization like that in the United States. I support the girls. Now there's over 100, 10 years later. So we certainly started something big.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that. That is really
Thank you.
quite something. And what I hear in what you just were in that story you were just telling is that there was this invisible, huge need. So it was extremely both compelling and urgent and also invisible. And you had the insight, frankly, to kind of spot that and step into that gap, which is, that's a kind of good, good for you and good for your many communities now that you were able to do that. If I can turn to you, Susan, and just ask the same thing. Obviously, I know you didn't start Arlington EATS, but tell us about your own kind of journey to the place that you are now. In fact, you should let people know what you do at Arlington EATS, because I didn't even ask you yet.
So I'm the program director. So I've lived in Arlington for 25 years, maybe a little more. And I really love this town. People just put their heart into things. They're very passionate. It's quite a special community. And actually, when my kids were small, I was one of the co-founders of the Little Fox Shop, which is now the Fox and Robin Shop. So that was a nonprofit, little kind of good for the community, good for recycling. And I did that for a good 10 years. And at a point I thought, I think I'm ready for the next challenge in my life. And we had been donors to Arlington EATS, and I knew what a great organization it was. And the job popped up. It was at the time, I can't remember what it was, but it was not program director. I have grown into that role. But I said, okay, this looks like a really great challenge. This organization is up and coming. It's growing. I'm really excited about it. And I got the job in 2019. So I figured out the job, and a pandemic hit, which was quite an ordeal. And so we shifted from an in-person model quickly to home delivery. And in person, we were serving about 160 families a week. By the end of the pandemic, we were serving about 250 families a week in home delivery. So it was quite a shift. So it's been a kind of trial by fire, and we have grown dramatically, both in terms of the number of people we've been serving and as a staff. So when I started, there were about 2.5 of us. We've just added, right, 2.5. I want to say we are now at, I'm going to say this wrong, 7 or 8. We just hired a development director, which is very exciting. So the staff has grown, our volunteer corps has grown, and we're now serving over 550 families a week between our in-person and our home delivery program. So, from going from about 160 families to 500 plus, there's constant growth, there's constant change. So while I didn't start it, I've really been able to help it along through this evolution of, we've also moved. When I started with Arlington EATS, we were in St. John's in a church basement, which was amazing that we had that space to work with, but now we're in our own space, which doesn't have stairs, that has a lovely street presence on Broadway. So we've kind of shifted a lot, so into a new building with more staff, with more guests, with just more everything, and the need is still growing, and it's only going to get worse with the new cuts and things that are coming down from the government. So we anticipate more growth. So we're starting to look at what are the next steps. We need more space for food storage. We need to have more ways to get food to people. We need to be open more hours. We'll probably need to hire more staff. So we're in a really good place, and we need to continue to grow, sadly, because the need is still out there.
Well, sure, it makes sense why you have hired a development director. That's for sure, because there's a lot more work to be done, and I think you're right. You're going to be very, very busy in these coming years. That reminds me, though. Let me ask you, Kate, if you could just tell us how did the pandemic affect the work that you do?
Well, it was certainly difficult because we distribute our product through our community partners. And suddenly, most of our community partners actually shut down,
right,
or were not able to distribute product easily to their clients. So we actually have never shut down. We were taken by surprise, and I think we took a week, but after that, we decided that we need to find a way to distribute product. And actually our biggest growth as an organization happened through pandemic. We went through 3,000 to 8,000 women we were serving per month in the year 2000. And the way we did that is, in many cases, we need to kind of surpass the community partners. And we set up with some large organizations, mostly from Boston, Lowell, Lawrence, and Lynn, distribution centers straight on the streets. So I remember we were on TV at the time because it was quite amazing. There were huge lines for food, and then there were lines for hygiene items and menstrual care and diapers, and we were the main providers, obviously, of the menstrual care. So we had, at some point, as many as 16 of those ongoing distribution centers in those towns. Of course, I don't think that it was as good as working with our community partners, because through our community partners, we can reach all towns, and need is not just in the cities and, not just in Boston and Lower and Lawrence, but that's the way we were distributing product, a lot of product. And as soon as we could, as soon as our partners were reopening, we were going back to the same model as before. And we really like doing it this way because, example of Arlington Needs, you guys know your needs the best. You know how you distribute, you know who you distribute to. So we rely on that, and we couldn't provide that dignified, reliable support without our community partners. And I want to really thank Susan for the partnership in Arlington. And we have 186 community partners like Arlington EATS. So thank you to all of them. And hopefully we won't have another pandemic. So we will continue serving our communities the way we serve them now.
What's it like? Because for Susan and others of your community partners, they are dealing directly with the people who are benefiting from your services. You are not. You're on the back end providing all of this stuff. Talk a little bit about that.
Sometimes I wish we had direct contact with the end recipients, because it must be a very rewarding experience. We don't have that. We used to have that for the first few years because we were actually personally going to all the community partners and distributing the product. But now with the size we have, we can't do that. So through evolution and growth, we became more of a logistics and supply chain organization. Um, the organization at this moment provides over 4 million items per year to the state and to a big variety of partners. Some of them are very large and they're regional partners, like, let's say, Salvation Army. And some of them are small, operating just a couple of days a week. So, again, we rely on them to reach their community the best way possible. And on our side, what we do is we make sure we have the product, we have the right mix of product because women need to have choice. Some women like, tampons. Some women prefer menstrual care. Some women use menstrual cups. You name it, we have it. And we try to make sure that we truly provide clients with their choice of menstrual care, their choice of underwear and bras, because that's, again, the dignity in our name. So I think we probably could grow much more and much faster if not the customized piece. Because for many of our partners, we actually provide hygiene kits. So every woman receives with her name the underwear and the bra in her size, her style, her choice. And that's, of course, very time consuming when you're talking about serving 18,000 women per month. So that's where a lot of our effort goes in making sure that stuff is prepared and packed right.
Really wonderful to hear. I want to give you an opportunity also to react to some of what you're hearing from Kate.
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, it's about the dignity piece, is about saying it's not one size fits all, right? You're not all going to fit the same underwear. You don't all use the same products. And it's the same with food. Not everybody wants the same vegetables. Not everybody wants, we have people who are gluten-free. You have people who eat halal. You have people who are vegetarian. So it's about, it's harder to do the work if you're going to actually give choice, but that's where the dignity comes in. So it's really important for partners to work with partners who also recognize that, and it just means that we can all do our work better, and people can come in and get what they need that works for their lives, and it's kind of a beautiful partnership.
Yeah, and I sorry, go ahead, Kate.
And I also, Susan touched on the partnership part, and I wanted to say that Arlington EATS also supports us. And the way you guys support us is by delivering our product to Project Soup in Somerville. Mm-hmm. So that's just another example of streamlining, of making sure that the product reaches different communities. You are Arlington organization, and yet you help us get our product to Somerville. So thank you. Mm-hmm. So that's just another example of how we help each other out.
I love this symmetry because I mentioned to you when you were describing the origin of Dignity Matters, I was saying, wow, that was an invisible need and a huge one. And that's now your organization. Your organization is practically invisible to the people that you are serving, but you are huge in that happening.
Yes,
and
that's true.
That's great.
We do actually have a sign up with our period products that has Dignity Matters. So they do. I mean, whether they pay attention, we do attempt to make the
sure.
effort to share.
No doubt.
No, I know.
Right,
yeah.
You know what I mean.
But
like,
I do know
again,
what you mean exactly.
they're providing the product and they're doing it reliably, and people, I'm sure, are grateful, or if their attention is ever drawn to that, they would be. Right. But in general, Kate, you're getting by with doing a lot of good without getting, again, to experience that direct, kind of sense of gratitude or sense of empowerment and all that stuff. But you know that it's happening, which is great. I do, Susan, want to mention that our co-producer, Michael Armanius, who I mentioned earlier, told me a story about things that you do. You've already said that people eat differently, and you want to, part of the dignity that you are conferring on all these folks is that they have choices, right? And he was telling me that you have even hired or contracted with a perhaps many translators. I don't know.
We have a that's our 8th staff position that I was trying to think of earlier. Yes, she's called she does translations for us, and she comes in a few days a week, and she's made really good relationships with our Chinese speaking guests, and so she's able to help us better communicate, because that is our 2nd largest after English language at Arlington EATS. So it's a challenge. We often have volunteers, but having a staff member who can really help us reliably translate things and communicate when there's important information to get across has been really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great example of what both of you are, again, putting forward, and your organizations are putting forward as the main thing, which is, if you walk into our doors, if you are a client of ours, if you need our products or services, we are going to meet you where you're at as much as possible and make it as comfortable for you to do these things that are hard. And the intangible but palpable conferring of dignity through that process is something that, again, we want to salute in both of your organizations here, and we want to kind of champion out there into the Arlington audience and beyond that this is possible and this is happening around us. With that, I want to say it's been a quick conversation. I knew it would be. Really want to actually, we'll take an extra minute and just invite each of you to share anything that you'd like as parting words for the broadcast today.
Thank
We'll
you.
start with you, Kate.
I would love to invite Arlington community to support us. I actually checked today, and we do not have a chapter in Arlington. We do not even have permanent collection bins. So as it stands, Arlington receives support from other towns and volunteers in other towns. So if there is anyone there listening, watching, and is interested in our mission and supporting us, it can be as simple as having our permanent bin in their driveway. We would love that because we need to raise awareness of our mission to continue supporting as many women as we can. Without that, we can't. So that's my call up for help in Arlington. And otherwise, if anyone would like to learn more, please visit our website, dignity-matters.org. It's all there.
All right, thank you so much for that. And as Susan was describing Arlington before, I'll bet there are going to be people listening in here who do want to respond. And Susan?
I guess I'd just plug it for Arlington EATS. As I said earlier, the need is large and it's growing. We're only serving about 60% of the need right now, and we would like to get to closer to 100%. So, we're always looking for donors and volunteers, people spreading the word, people donating food. We take collections every Tuesday from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. There's lots of information on our website, but just continue to support our organization and share with others. And if people need us, don't be afraid to walk in the door.
All right.
Yeah.
So Susan Dorson is the program director at Arlington EATS, and we've also been speaking with Kate Sanetra-Butler, who basically, I think you created, right, Dignity Matters, and is running that organization, obviously, to great success. Do pay attention to what they were saying at the end here, please, and reach out in any way you feel like you can to support these worthy organizations. Best of luck to both of you. Just carry on, because really these are good, great stories within what is a larger context that doesn't have a whole lot of those in a lot of ways. So thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us as well. I'm James Milan. This is Talk of the Town. We'll see you next time.
ACMI productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMI to learn how you can help.